Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and Tyreek Hill all have massive upside at the wide receiver position. But who are some other wide receivers with massive upside? I've got 10 guys I'm going to share with you. Hey, before we get to those guys, I got some exciting news. Introducing Draft Lane, the ultimate app for every fantasy football enthusiast. Take a trip down memory lane with our unique league history feature, giving you a comprehensive view of all your past leagues. Challenge yourself by comparing your historical performance against your league mates. Climb up the ranks and strive for the top spot in the Draft Lane rankings. Connect directly with Pierre and myself to receive answers to all your burning fantasy questions. Experience the ultimate draft companion. We can tell you exactly who to pick when you're on the clock to help you draft that winning roster. During the season, rely on Draft Lane to help you set winning lineups, make strategic waiver pickups, and even get personalized trade advice all through our user-friendly app. Download Draft Lane for free on the App Store or Google Play for Android phones today. Let's start with our first player, CeeDee Lamb. I keep talking about CeeDee Lamb, but I don't understand why he isn't grouped in with these elite wide receivers, at least to the Stephon Diggs type of level. This is a guy wide receiver 4 last year from week 7 on when Dak Prescott was healthy, and he did that despite finishing only 15th in red zone targets and 71st in yards after catch. In this Mike McCarthy offense, he's going to have plenty of chances to have more yards after catch, so we could see this guy increase his yardage total. Also, you got to think that red zone target number is going to come up because who do they have other than him as a red zone target? Brandon Cook's not a big red zone target. Michael Gallup, not a big red zone target. Zeke is gone. Dalton Schultz is gone. His red zone targets should go up. So we can see CeeDee Lamb have more touchdowns and more yards this year, not to mention a massive target share in this Dallas offense. CeeDee Lamb has massive upside in 2023. Another receiver with massive upside is Garrett Wilson, second-year player. I know a lot of people are a little nervous. They're wondering why he's being drafted so high. Well, I'll tell you why. Number one, he's an absolute stud. When you look at this guy as a prospect and what he did as a rookie, everything you want to see in a potential stud alpha wide receiver in the future. And he also got a major quarterback upgrade with Aaron Rodgers. And look, maybe Aaron Rodgers isn't quite the same guy he was in his prime, but he's still more than good enough. He's still an accurate passer, and he's going to pepper Garrett Wilson with targets because who else is he competing with here? Like Allen Lazard, Corey Davis, Randall Cobb, I don't know. Garrett Wilson, head and shoulders, the best wide receiver on this team. Almost a lock for top 10 in targets. Could even push for top 5 in targets this year. So Garrett Wilson, massive upside in 2023. Next up on the list is the sun god, Amon-Ra St. Brown, an absolute target monster last year, over 100 receptions. No reason to think that'll change because really the only other quality wide receiver they have, Jamison Williams, will be suspended the first 6 games. Now we're hearing he's kind of struggling in camp, getting into fights. Dan Campbell kind of saying those words that make you a little nervous, like, we think he'll figure it out. He needs the practice time. Starting to get DeAndre Swift vibes here. But regardless, Amon-Ra St. Brown is an absolute stud. And the thing you got to like about him is he's set for major positive touchdown regression. He was 8th in red zone targets last year, yet he was 20th in touchdowns. You got to think if he's going to get those red zone targets again this year, which he should, his touchdown numbers are going to go up to go with over 100 receptions, a good enough yardage amount. With that touchdown increase, Amon-Ra St. Brown has a chance to have massive upside in 2023. Next up, a wide receiver who did have massive upside in 2022 and should have massive upside again here in 2023, and that is Jaylen Waddle. Had a 40-point game last year, a 30-point game, a couple 20-plus point games, and that was all while playing with Tyreek Hill. Also, Tua missed a big portion of the season last year. All signs are Tua is healthy. He looks the best he's ever looked, and we know this offense is predicated on one thing: speed. Both these guys, Tyreek Hill, Jaylen Waddle, have tremendous speed. They both have tremendous weekly upside. Yes, Tyreek Hill is the guy you want or prefer because he gives you the higher floor. He's going to get the higher target share to go with that massive ceiling. But Jaylen Waddle also has tremendous, massive upside in this offense. Don't sleep on him in the second round of your drafts. This is a guy who can win you multiple weeks throughout the season on any given week in this offense. And if Tua stays healthy for all 17 games, he could definitely finish as a top 10 wide receiver. Jaylen Waddle, massive upside in 2023. The next wide receiver with massive upside is a guy we haven't seen in a while, and that is Calvin Ridley. I'm really coming around on Calvin Ridley. Never doubted the talent, never doubted the ability. This guy has all the talent in the world. It was just, What's he going to look like after not playing football for a year and a half on a new team, in a new system? Well, so far, he's looked nothing but great. All the word out of camp is he looks tremendous. He's in great shape. His route running is fantastic. And he landed in such a good spot because this Jacksonville offense is on the rise. We saw it last year. Trevor Lawrence, over 4,000 yards, 25 touchdowns, first year in this Doug Peterson system. He's only going to get better. This is a quarterback, generational talent at QB, consensus #1 pick. This is a guy you don't have to worry about. Calvin Ridley is going to be the #1 target here, the #1 wide receiver. He has tremendous upside in this offense. His ADP is starting to rise, and I'm all on board with it because Calvin Ridley has massive upside in 2023. As does Amari Cooper, a guy I've been talking about a lot this offseason. He had massive upside in 2022 as well, had 6 games over 20 fantasy points, 1 game over 30 fantasy points. And that was with Jacoby Brissett and an awful Deshaun Watson. Now Deshaun Watson surely will be better this year. Has a full offseason with this team. No worry about the off-the-field stuff. He's going to bounce back. He's still in the prime of his career. He's a fantastic quarterback. And Amari Cooper is going to be a huge beneficiary of that. Amari Cooper, the clear #1 wide receiver in this offense. He can do it all. Had one of his best years last year. He's kind of in that range of his career where this is probably his last truly elite year for a wide receiver of his type, but you want a piece of it because this guy is going to have massive upside in 2023 in this offense with Deshaun Watson. Speaking of Watson, Christian Watson has massive upside in 2023. I know a lot of people are worried. It's Jordan Love, not Aaron Rodgers. You know, they have Romeo Doubs. They drafted Jaden Reed. It doesn't matter. Christian Watson has a profile to be an alpha wide receiver 1. And so far, all the reports out of camp is that's the guy he's been. And we saw it last year. He's not a guy who needs 10 targets, 15 targets. He doesn't need a bunch of catches. This guy is a big play waiting to happen every time the ball is in his hands. That's all Jordan Love has to do. Get the ball in his hands, and he can make the rest happen. Kind of similar to Jaylen Waddle in that Miami offense. I'm not saying they're similar players because they're very different players, but similar in the sense that just get the ball in his hands and let him do the rest. That's what Christian Watson can do. He's going to be the #1 target in this offense. He's an incredible athlete, incredible speed, incredible home run potential. Christian Watson has massive upside in 2023. As does a guy you all love to hate, Mike Williams. Because whether you like it or not, Mike Williams is about to be in the best situation he's ever been in. He's going from a Joe Lombardi offense that was predicated on quick, short passes to a Kellen Moore offense that's predicated on down the field, vertical throwing. This is good news for Justin Herbert, but it's great news for Mike Williams. And I know some people are worried about Quentin Johnston, who they drafted this year. I like Quentin Johnston, but he's a guy who's probably going to need year 1 to develop. Not a guy who's going to come out right out of the gates and be, getting a huge snap share and a ton of targets. Mike Williams is ready to go right there in that Amari Cooper range of probably the last great year of his career. Don't miss out on it. Don't be worried about the whole injury prone thing. This guy in this offense with Kellen Moore has tremendous weekly upside. Some might even say he has massive upside in 2023. As does Arizona Cardinals wide receiver Marquise Brown. And I know the worry here. It's Kyler Murray. Oh my gosh, he's coming off ACL late in the season. Totally get it. But I've talked about it over and over. We're going to see him sooner than most people think. It may not be week 1. It may not be week 2. Maybe it's week 5. Maybe it's week 6. It doesn't matter because once Kyler Murray gets out there, Marquise Brown's upside goes through the roof because we saw it last year when it was just him, no DeAndre Hopkins. He got peppered with targets, and it's going to be the same situation this year. Their defense is terrible. They're going to be throwing the ball early and often, 35, 40, 45, 50 pass attempts a game we're going to see out of this offense some weeks, and Hollywood Brown is going to have the biggest target share by far of anybody in this offense because who else is there? Rondale Moore, who I do kind of like, but he's like a slot guy. Greg Dortch, he's okay. Michael Wilson, a rookie, probably going to need to develop. Zach Ertz coming off a major ACL injury at 32 years old, probably not going to be on the field. Hollywood Brown could get close to a 30% target share in this offense, and as long as Kyler Murray is out there at some point relatively early in the season, that is all he needs to have massive upside this season, and more importantly, massive upside in your fantasy playoffs, which matters even more. So Hollywood Brown has massive upside in 2023. And I've talked about my worries with George Pickens, the risk with George Pickens, but I can't ignore the fact that this guy has massive upside because there's a lot of things he doesn't do well as a wide receiver, but the things he does do well is the deep routes and those contested highlight reel catches. And if those two things can come together and Kenny Pickett and this offense start featuring him more in that way, he's going to have massive upside because he's a freak athlete. He's an incredible playmaker. He's a great contested catch wide receiver. He just needs the offense and the quarterback that can support that because he's not a guy like Deontay Johnson who's going to get peppered with targets, get open all over the field. That's not what George Pickens was. At least that's not what he was last year as a rookie. Could he develop into that? Sure, but it's probably not going to be this year. But he still has tremendous upside because, again, he's great on those vertical routes and he can catch contested catches. So Kenny Pickett doesn't have to put it in the right spot. Just throw it up there and let him make a play. So I'm not going to completely ignore the risks with George Pickens, but I'm also not going to ignore the upside. So George Pickens, even though he has a ton of risk, he also has massive upside in 2023. And then finally, the rookie with potentially the most upside at wide receiver is Zay Flowers. Now, Jordan Addison is my number one rookie wide receiver this year, but I think Zay Flowers actually has more upside than Jordan Addison because now he's in this Todd Monken offense, this Ravens offense that's going to be completely different than anything we've seen with Lamar Jackson. They're going to play faster, they're going to throw it more, they're going to run more plays, they're going to be moving the ball, and it's going to be predicated on Lamar Jackson throwing the football. And who are the other wide receivers here? Odell Beckham, over 30 years old, just had surgery for the second time on the same knee for the same ACL. You got Rashad Bateman, who knows when he's going to be out there. Then you got Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely, who are tight ends. Zay Flowers is one of the best prospects in this class. He has a chance to be a number one wide receiver. You can line him up all over the field, put him up against different coverages on the line, off the line, in the slot, whatever you want. Use him in a variety of ways. I think this guy is going to have a tremendous season, and he has massive upside in 2023. So those wide receivers have massive upside in 2023, but if you want to see 6 players going late in your drafts with massive upside, check them out right here.